Take one at Figman. For 20 years, magazines have been dying. When JDS bought Slam in 2016, the job was pretty simple: modernize or become another casualty. Today, Slam isn't just alive, it's thriving. But the growth didn't really come from all the places that we expected. It hasn't been just clicks and subscriptions. It's been things like t-shirt sales, graded magazines as collectibles, and live events. It turns out the digital era actually made the physical era more valuable. Today's guest is somebody who understands that better than most, CEO of Slam, Adam Figman. Let's start here. We all the city of New York just got through the best Knicks run of both of our lifetime. You went through it as a Knicks fan and as the guy who had to print all the shirts. What was more stressful?
I wasn't personally printing every shirt that we sold, nor printing every magazine that we made and sold, but it was a journey. I think when I look back on that few months, if you start it down 2-1 to the Hawks.
Yeah.
As the sort of like beginning point. You go through the parade as the end point.
Yeah.
There were so many times during that journey where I was like, this is really happening.
Yeah.
And it was 53 years since the championship. I didn't experience all 53 years, obviously, but I've been a Knicks fan my whole life. And I did have a feeling about this team. I mean, I've joked about this. I'm not bragging about being a savant in any way, but I knew that if the Knicks turned a corner, the city would come alive, which is why we did greenlight a lot of product over the winter to land now, or I should say in like April leading into the playoffs. So we had the Knicks kids book, we had a Knicks coffee table book, we had a bunch of Slam icon stuff, Larry Johnson, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston. We've had a ton of Knicks covers. So we had a base of product ready for people. And then as things happen, you got these incredible moments, OG's tip in, countless Brunson performances, the sweeps, which led to this team cover that we did that performed amazingly. And you had fans who not only wanted to go on the ride, but wanted to collect things, buy things, just be a part of the moment. And I think now, more than ever, everyone's so conscious of moments being these fleeting time capsules where maybe just the productization of everything ever has led to us being like, wait, I'm going to want this later on.
Yeah.
So whenever there's these big moments, the championship merch, special edition magazine, the trading card, all of that kind of stuff, people want it, On the super collector version, you get game worn jerseys and the basketball and all that kind of stuff. But just for the layman, you get, magazines and trading cards and t-shirts and hoodies and hats and all this stuff. So for us, I think looking back on it now, this is a long-winded answer to your question, but it's all relevant, is I'm proud that what it proved was we have built the infrastructure to take care of fans in that way. We were so ready to do quick turn covers, quick turn magazines, t-shirts, hoodies. Obviously, we had the coffee table book. Like, we had all these things ready. And then we had the infrastructure to move fast when a big moment happens. We would turn a cover around in 24, 48 hours. So it was exciting. It was like every week, few days, there was a new wait, let's do this. Wait, let's do this. Wait, let's do this. And then personally, that blended with watching the games with my friends every night.
Yeah.
The crazy combo.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was here for a lot of it. So first thing, hearing you talk, there's like a million business questions that pop up into my head, right? Like the licensing of it all, the planning of it all, the operations. I think we'll get into a lot of that, but I want to stick here for a second because I was actually away for the OG tip-in game. I was at a wedding in Europe, and we made a little vacation out of it. So I was watching from afar, but the time zone and everything, I missed a lot of the real being there with New York through this crazy run. And It looked amazing. I want to stick here for a second before we just dive into business. I'm a New York, New Jersey person. It's how I was raised. My family's been here for a long time. Slam is founded in 1994, basketball Bible. It's NBA, but it's New York. It's home base here. It's been with the Knicks through the 90s, etc. We're living in a crazy world. We don't have to get into all of that, but I think everybody would agree, right? It's like tensions are high everywhere for a lot of different reasons in the world right now. There was a beautiful thing that happened here in New York. You're a New Yorker. What was it like to be on the streets with everybody from, whoever lives next to Central Park to the people that fill up this city and make it run? Would love to hear your perspective on that as a New Yorker and as a basketball person.
It was as joyous as it looked in the social content.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really was. It was people hugging in the streets. It was everyone psyched up. You also had every version of it, right? You had, you had people who maybe don't spend their time in sports bars or the high-end lounges who just were watching outside of a deli that was showing the game on the small TV in the corner, and you would have 20 people standing there watching it.
Yeah.
You had, people who drive the UPS bus or the postman or people just who work all over the city, super engaged. And then you had clubs filled with people, lounges, sports bars, just every sort of nook and cranny of the city, including the sidewalks, engulfed in it, right? There were times where we were joking with friends of mine about where we would watch it, and we did a bunch of different versions of where you would watch it. But at times it was like, do we have to plan it? Can we just go outside?
Yeah.
And it'll just be on somewhere.
Literally, you just go, you don't just
it was
be
just
there.
It was just around.
Yeah.
It really did engulf the city. Looking back now, it's so cool that it was this thing that was for hardcore fans and someone who got into basketball 2 months ago, because it's everywhere. And you couldn't live in New York City and not be a little bit engulfed in it.
Yeah.
So it was for everyone, and it brought everyone together. I don't know how else to put it. There's sometimes you see things on the internet, social media, and it looks one way, and in person it was a little different, or that's not really the vibe. No, it was this thing that brought the city together for a few months. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, my grandfather, he passed away. He's kind of the guy who made us a sports family. He was such a sports guy. We would always have these debates about how sports have changed, how fans have changed. And one of the things he would call out is fandom has kind of deteriorated a bit with just the spread of information, the distractions people have. It's still, sports is culture. It's a pillar of culture. But the thing he always used to tell me was back in the day in Brooklyn, everybody had their radio on the stoop.
Right.
And you could walk down the street and not miss a pitch of the Brooklyn Dodgers game because it was a day game. It's a weekend, and it was that ingrained with the neighborhood. Yeah, exactly. And not that that's disappeared, but it feels like this was it coming back in a strong way for New York.
I think nationally it has disappeared. Yeah. Honestly, sports is probably the last closest thing to that, and the closest thing to that nationally would be football.
Yeah.
And the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl makes the whole country stop. Now, if there's another thing that does it nationwide, but this was New York City's monoculture. I know that's definitionally confusing, but it was like what you just described in New York City, probably even turned up even higher. It's the closest thing that I've seen to everyone rallying around one sports thing. I don't know what would top that.
How about The Office? I mean, Slam, like we said, right? Yeah. Slam is New York. It's basketball. It's agnostic to basketball, but it's also New York.
Yeah.
What was it like coming to the office every day? And what were, I mean, that must be the peak, right? Of it doesn't feel like I'm working, right? If it's everyone's together, we're just tackling problems, but having fun while doing it. What was that all like?
I think all of this is fun. Personally, you
Yeah.
don't do this for sort of the amount of time that I've done it for and with the intensity that I do it without really enjoying it. I enjoy it every day. So for me, sure, but it's always kind of fun. There were elements of it that were relatively strategic, but a lot of it wasn't that strategic, and it was pulling levers that we've already set up the infrastructure to have. So it was kind of just like, oh, of course we should do this. Of course we should do this cover. Oh, of course there's going to be these cool metal editions of the cover. You know, the gold is out of 94. The orange is unlimited for 48 hours. It's going to have t-shirts and hoodies and crew necks. And, well, we need player approval, so we got to make a bunch of phone calls, but that's not easy to do, but that's part of it. And we know exactly how to pull those levers. It was all of these levers that we were pulling that we've been setting up for the past few years, if not longer. So we sort of knew what to do. It was just a little more fun because the subject matter was fun. And then the other part of this is just, you talk about like the office and the camaraderie and the brand and all of that stuff. You're paying attention around the clock if you're doing it properly anyway. Now it's just this thing that's so enjoyable during those hours.
I think that's a good segue too, and talk about how long you've been doing this. You talked about the levers Slam has been setting up to be able to move quickly when the opportunity strikes. JDS Sports, as investors in Slam, we've been on a journey with Slam. It's 10 years now, and we're going to get into, I think, big questions like, what does it mean to be a media company today? How do you succeed as a media company today? All those levers you've been setting up and all the changes you've seen. I think it's important for whoever listens to this to hear your personal story a little bit and how you predates JDS and us as a role player here, and the journey you've been on from intern to CEO, which is incredible. I was looking forward to calling that out. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's the route. College, Lehigh University, graduate, don't really have too much of a plan other than going to spend a couple of months living in my parents' attic in Long Island and applying to jobs and figuring stuff out. I really wanted to be in music, even more so than sports, although, interested in both. Knew I wanted to be in sort of the magazine world at the time. Applying for entry-level jobs, internships. I was freelancing at a couple of places, like music websites, Vibe magazine, and just looking for a leg in. And I was really struggling on the music front. But I remember one day just being like, if the music thing is hard, what about sports?
Yeah.
I'm super into that also. I studied journalism in college. And Slam was, I knew, I read the magazine my whole life, known the brand forever. But I also knew that it had a music-inspired, hip-hop inspired edge to it. So that was intriguing. Apply for an internship, go up to the office. The Slam office was maybe 12 feet away from the XXL office, and there was a lot of crossover. So I'm like, this will help me get into music if nothing else. Because maybe I could sneak into working with XXL, writing for XXL, doing stuff on the music front, and who knows where that can take me. So started, and then I think I was part of...
What year was this? Not to,
No,
date you, but
2010.
I think it's important. 2010. Okay.
Yeah, 2010. And I, at the time, Slam was a magazine, and it was a website, and it had very early social channels. I remember on my first day, Ben Osborne said, "Here's this Twitter password. We're still trying to figure this out. Anything you want to do on there is cool. Just go ahead." And there were a few people around, Ryan, Lang, Svi, these guys that were working on digital media, social media, sometimes the magazine all at once. The digital media piece of it was sort of figured out. There were people had been working on the website for probably about a decade by then. Social was still pretty new.
Mm-hmm.
And changing. So that was where I was able to be like, I think this is cool. I was doing it for fun on my own time. I had my own Twitter account, which you have your own Twitter account now. That sounds bizarre. But at the time, like having your own Twitter account meant you were sort of on the cutting edge of social media.
Yeah.
People didn't have Twitter accounts like that. And, when I just started. So yeah, was good at it. And it's that simple. It just like was pretty good at a few elements of the job. And I liked it. And there are a couple stories that I can tell you or not waste your time, but a couple of things happened that made me realize this is a fun place to work. And so I was like, I want to figure this out.
Yeah.
So yeah, started then internship turned part-time, turned full-time, turned every content job you can imagine over the years. Producer, writer, video stuff, social stuff, website, magazine, everything, all of it, through editor-in-chief eventually, through chief content officer, through CEO. So came through the content side, and to bring it to now-ish, when I became editor-in-chief, like late 2016 or later 2010s, was when I was like, okay, I'm interested in the storytelling of it all and the content of it all and the audience growth of it all. But I want to know how it happens and why it exists and how it grows and all of the business side elements of it. So any chance I could get hanging around Dennis's office, talking to Dave, who was working on the business side at the time also, learning the advertising piece of it all, and just spending hours and hours, talking to people, listening to, this is a little bit pre-podcast, but listening to podcasts when I could, reading everything, just learning every single thing I could about how the business of it works.
Yep.
And then as the job evolved, I was just putting myself in the middle of those conversations constantly so that later on, I had as much understanding of the business of media as I did the content, and the audience and the brand and all of the parts that you learn pretty naturally on the content side. So I think I have this sort of unique point of view that's been helpful as CEO, where I understand brand, audience, social, digital, all of those kind of things. And I've learned the business of it all, obviously, but it's informed by sort of the output and what the audience sees and what they read and watch and listen to and consume. And I'm working backwards off that, as opposed to traditionally when you're coming through the business side, you might be working in the opposite direction, just thinking about what sells or what makes money, which, I learned. So now I see both sides of it.
Yeah, it's great. In the early days, as you're figuring out, okay, we're creating mostly print media. We're figuring out how to be relevant on digital channels. You're a young guy whose core responsibility is to write interesting things and create interesting content. Also paying attention to the business side of stuff, of how we make money. Like, what were kind of the North Stars or the KPIs, the things that like you guys were tracking? Because it's not super intuitive, I think, especially early in your career without really understanding the business of everything, trying to figure all that out. It's the transition itself is like not that intuitive, right? Like, we need more followers. How do we make money there? Like, what was the North Star you guys were chasing as you're transforming from the legacy magazine into a digitally relevant media business?
I can BS you and tell you that it was super structured and there was a really intense plan, or I can be honest with you. Which would you prefer?
I think I'm ready to be honest about JDS Sports and all of this too, right? Like, I work for brilliant people, and I think also any good investor will tell you, like, we try to predict the future,
right?
We try and look at the past and good comparisons, and we write theories and try to project hypotheses and make money and grow businesses, right? But like, we didn't know exactly how the Slam story was going to go. I think this podcast is interesting because JDS Sports and Slam have done so much right, but a lot of it was just figuring stuff out, And I think that's kind of where this conversation is interesting. We didn't really know, coming into it. I think it was like, this is a great brand that we can get at a discount because print is distressed. We need to get on the right channels. We need to heat it up. We need to grow the audience in the right places. Did we know exactly how we were going to make money for the next 10 years? We had a good idea, but we weren't exactly right. It's working out, but like there was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So we can be honest about that. And I think we're all pretty happy about where we are today, right?
No, but I was referencing the earlier years, like
totally. And that's
early 2010s.
even an extension of that, right?
Yeah.
So
early
that's what I'm curious
2010s,
about.
same deal, like follower growth, engagement rates, new channels all the time, right? So you have Twitter, then Instagram, then Facebook. There was a period in my career, I don't know, someone could look up the years. I don't even remember what year this was hot, but it must have been mid 2010s, like the traffic era of Facebook. You would take a website article, you would upload it to Facebook, and then you'd go over to Chartbeat and you'd watch the dial go woo. And if it was a bad article or it had a bad headline, or a boring headline, I should say, you'd get a dozen, 3 dozen, 5 dozen viewers, because you were watching simultaneous, viewership. And then if you knew how to like, wait, what if I put this in the headline?
Yeah.
Or I do this, or we do an article about this, then I put it on Chartbeat. Now it has 500 followers. Wait, 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers. Like, sorry, not followers, viewers.
Viewers, yeah.
So you're playing that game.
Yep.
That was that era. Instagram, more visual. It's photos. There was an era where we were on Tumblr doing a bunch of stuff. Obviously, our YouTube channel is great now, but we were figuring it out in those days also. So it's all these different places, and you were throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks all the time.
Yeah.
Because all these tools were so new.
Yeah.
Not that hasn't stopped to some degree. And we can talk about the sort of pros and cons of that. But it was so new, and you were so trying to figure it out, and you didn't know what the brand building of it all was. You just knew it was traffic. And I think looking back, a big learning for a bunch of those brands and media companies that really got huge in the 2010s, way bigger than Slam. I'm talking about the big ones. I think what they later on learned was during those times of huge traffic, huge follower growth, huge engagement, they weren't really building brands.
Yeah.
And when the forces came to, whether it was Google kind of turning down search and making it hard to get traffic, or Facebook, which did that first, now it's basically impossible to get traffic through the traditional Facebook app. As these levers became impossible to pull from a media perspective, all you have is your brand. And a lot of these companies didn't have a brand at the end of it. For us, I think the big advantage of Slam was that early, 1994 through 20 whatever, of just having this dominant publication in the space where it was such a big brand and such an iconic brand, and that there were all these different ways to play with it: social media, digital media, all of that. It obviously lasted through then, but it was so fun in the moment. Just to circle back to your actual question, it was so fun in the moment to just be figuring out. But I'll give you a real answer, which is there were no real KPIs in the early 2010s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think even for us, it was like, okay, kudos to Joe Sandberg, who is a great investor, and he understands people. I think that's one of the reasons why he's a really good investor, and he understands culture. And when the opportunity to get Slam was on the table, kudos to him for recognizing all the things you just said about this trusted brand, widespread publication, the durability of all of that. And I think like that was enough, to say, let's look here, let's grab it, and let's look at our options. Eat the thing up. Like let's spend some money.
Yeah.
And the people that work there, they understand the brand really well.
Yeah.
They're increasingly more capable in a digital setting, and like make this thing cool again, and not that it wasn't cool, but it wasn't maybe as visible
Yeah.
to a younger audience as it was in the early 2000s and 90s, right?
And when you look at I would say the mid 2010s, the previous owner, pre JDS, it was really hard for us to eat it up, for lack of a better way to put it. We were watching our competition do such cool stuff digitally and socially, and we had zero of the resources to do that. You know, no added headcount, no budgets to make cool video content, or anything like that. And we spent a few years, you asked like back to what were the KPIs of the digital growth of it all. Then it became like, there's an intangible element of it, right? Heat, brand heat.
Yep.
But there was a tangible element of it too. It was let's get these followers up.
Yep.
Let's make it so that I think we had 1, maybe 2 million sort of across all of our channels cumulatively. And we did a bunch of strategic stuff those years to get that number way higher pretty quickly, doing a bunch of growth stuff. But it was part art, part science, right? There was that. And then there was also the brand heat of it all, where it's like, let's do cool stuff. And we're not going to be able to perfectly measure it. But if it makes the Slam brand cool, especially to a new, younger generation, let's just try it.
Yeah.
If it works, let's do it a bunch of times in a row.
Totally. Yeah. And when you say you were looking at your competitors doing all of these cool things and growing, in my head, I'm kind of like delineating between Sports Illustrated, like who's on the competitive map for Slam in 2014? Sports Illustrated, like print media comps, were they really succeeding? And then on the other side of the aisle, it's these digitally native media companies like BuzzFeed, or I don't know when Vox was founded, but
Bleacher Report. Complex.
Exactly. Those people who never had a magazine, or like maybe they were doing stuff physically, but they were formed digitally first. We're not going to sit here and analyze everybody's business today and who's succeeding and who's not. But to me, what I kind of see is like the consumer really likes the nostalgia and the real world presence that Slam was born in, combined with what succeeds in the digital world today, if that makes sense. So back to like bringing up, separating the two, who was succeeding in your eyes? Was it like, we need to learn from like legacy comparisons, or was it like, we need to be more like BuzzFeed and Bleacher Report?
In those days?
Yeah.
The latter.
The latter, right?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's interesting. So we suffered from lack of investment, lack of sort of, growth capital in the mid 2010s. But a bunch of other legacy publications suffered from either a worse version of that or other stuff. You can go probably company by company and find some stuff. And sometimes it was worse than what we had going on.
Totally.
Whether it's investment from shady places or people who didn't understand the space and wanted to do stuff, companies or media brands that just didn't really resonate like that, and they were just sort of they had no capital behind them and were smaller teams than Slam, and they couldn't figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I remember definitely we were looking at the digital behemoths of the time, and frankly, I was pretty jealous. In hindsight, I think a lot of those companies, don't want to tear anyone down, but the only way that you really survive and thrive in that state is, I think, with that kind of ethos.
If you're able to survive, I think like, you bring stuff into the future that innovators just like naturally can't have, right? They were born without. So it's hard to, and then they need to, the same way Slam needs to evolve.
Yeah.
All these digitally native companies, some are doing well, some are struggling. They've all kind of gone through their own cycles. I imagine a lot of the discussion they're having is like, the consumer craves analog today. The way that they consume information is rapidly changing. We're all being super served ads. We're all glued to our phones, and our business was set up to capitalize on that. But there's serious fatigue, right? And Slam has this thing, this X factor that is an answer to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that like any of us really were like tiptoeing perfectly through the last 10 years on purpose or like super consciously. But looking back on why we're hitting a really nice run, I think it's the balance between, you know, why was Slam ever cool in the first place?
Mm.
What parts of that do people crave today?
Yeah.
But also understanding how to do business in a modern setting.
I mean, you said we have an answer to that, referencing, you know, people's craving for analog versus digital. I think we have a bunch of answers for that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all things that we built before this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pre-built and they're a huge part of our business today. Obviously, there's the magazine, right? We've seen the way that, and this is probably the smallest part of all of my answers to this question, but first of all, there's just a stack of them in front of me. So, and second of all, the brand was built on that. So I do think it's appropriate to start on that. I think for a lot of years, people bought magazines to read them, to consume what was on every single page, because there was not such a small amount of media, but much less. And if you wanted to touch basketball culture, you did it through Slam. If you wanted to touch rock and roll culture, Rolling Stone, hip hop culture, XXL. And these were the only places to do that. I mean, you'd get some radio stuff, some TV stuff, some newspaper stuff, but mostly, and the best place was magazines, in my opinion. So that was the existence of magazines for a long time. Now, I don't think that's totally it. I think there's still some of that, and we love hearing about people who have subscriptions and they read it to their kids, and their kids learn how to read through the magazine. There's still a lot of that. But we've also seen the evolution of it where people want to buy the magazine to frame it. So we sell it with frames. People want to buy it because they want to hold on to it for a lot of years. So we sell it with a top loader so you can keep it clean. People want to buy them so they can get them graded and either sell them on eBay or just have a real record of the quality, and they want it slabbed so it's not going to go anywhere, and they want to display the slab or they want to hold on to it. So there's this graded magazine community. Maybe most people just want to have it on their coffee table or their desk. And we see a lot of the people that are doing all of those things, they're fans first, versus I want to consume all of basketball culture. Now I think there's a little more, I'm a Knicks fan, let me get the Brunson magazine. I would love to display that. That's my guy. Or I'm a Magic fan, let me get the Paolo magazine. Or I'm an Aces fan, let me get Asia Wilson, that kind of stuff. It's really about the fandom of it all from that perspective. So that's the magazine. Events. Events are analog, I would say.
Yeah, in the physical world.
Yeah, the Slam Summer Classic started in those, 2018, I think. Yeah. We're going on the 8th version of it. Amazing event every single year, brings so many people together. Amazing content comes out of it from the digital perspective, but it's this IRL get together also. We do a few events per year, right? We're activating at NBA Crossover and WNBA Live every year at the All-Star Weekends, NBA and WNBA. We threw this awesome Final Four event this year. We've done watch party stuff. We've done all sorts of brand activations. I still think that the IRL analog piece of it is really important. A huge part of our business now is apparel, cover tees, cover hoodies, licensed product of all sorts. We have 75 college licenses, I think now. We sell collegiate merch, hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, pants, hats. I mean, the whole thing. So now people are touching the Slam brand in another physical way, right? With what they wear. They want to represent it. They want to represent their favorite teams. They want to represent Slam. If they could do both at the same time, even better. It's back to that fandom thing of that's my favorite team or that's my favorite player. They're probably repping that more than they're repping Slam, but they understand that Slam is a stamp that makes something cool, that makes something aspirational. So if they could do both, that's the real win. So that's where, whether it's the cover tees or the Slam branded stuff that are also have, college marks on them, but we also sell team marks also, and we're also just in the apparel business. So there's all these analog components of our business, along with all the digital and social stuff that you mentioned before, that started before this sort of AI slot moment we're in. But I'm really excited to have those, so involved in our business now, because I think it's sort of perfect timing for that.
Yeah, I want to go through I have a lot of questions about like how we're doing analog or IRL well. I also want to double tap first on some of the digital or, tech forward decisions that have been made at Slam. I think you have been the voice of reason a lot in my memory, right? I'm coming from the investment firm that, is building alongside Slam. We're looking to be innovative, right? We want things that scale. And I'm a nerd, right? Like I love, what if Slam sold NFTs, right? What if Slam, like AI their shopping experience, right? Like all those those are the rabbit holes I love going down. I think that you've been the voice of reason a lot of like, well, where's the consumer really today? What's authentic to our brand? And we've had great conversations about the direction of the business that you run. What have been decisions throughout the years that you think are like, I think the digital cover is an example, right? Extending the brand that way of good, and like maybe we made a mistake, or this is something we passed on. Like what has been kind of in that matrix?
I don't think we made any mistakes. I don't think we've made mistakes. I think we've learned from everything we've done, even if it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, it's a great perspective.
And I'm not just saying that because it's like all positive vibes only. Like,
right.
If something came to mind, that would be like, oh, we didn't learn anything from that. That was dumb. I think we've learned from everything we've done.
The learning piece is huge. I also think the like controlled experiment piece, where like you have somebody who knows how to stage something new, who knows how to test, right? Like that's also something I think that's done very well at Slam. But yeah, continue.
No, 100%. I think when I look at the wins, the big one was very organic thing that happened in the late 2010s, which was going vertical socially, right? Developing Slam Kicks. We developed Slam Kicks because that predates, Slam Kicks is the only one that predates JDS, I believe. I could have my timeline a little wrong, but I'm pretty sure Slam Kicks comes out of the mid 2010s because Kicks was its own vertical also. So why would Kicks not have a social vertical? Because it had a magazine vertical since 1999. So we had Slam and Slam Kicks. Then, okay, let's do a bunch of high school content. Hired a few people. We had investment from JDS. We knew we wanted to reach the high school audience. Let's start creating high school content. We start creating high school content. We put it on Slam. It's bombing. I'm seeing the exact same content on some of the high school basketball accounts from their accounts. The quality was no better, no worse. If anything, their quality was worse. And they were getting thousands, if not millions of views, and we were getting none. And the learning there was, oh, wait, we just spent a bunch of years developing an NBA audience, pro basketball audience, to a degree, a little bit of college, but not really any high school basketball audience on our main account. So we have to just start from zero and create Slam High School.
The algorithm like rewarded specification.
Totally.
Yeah.
And still does.
Yeah.
And algorithmically it made no sense. So we started Slam High School, and follower count was growing really well, but more importantly, engagement rate was really good. And then it was like, okay, well, let's keep going. And W Slam for women's hoops, Slam Rewind for nostalgia. League Fits wasn't unlocked. League Fits was a thing we thought of at 1 p.m. Hey, why don't we post the tunnel photos are cool. Let's post them on its own account. Let's use the same vertical strategy. I think we had the account made 3 hours later, and we had the Getty license, so we were able to post photos there. And then we just built it into an account, and then we built the account into a brand, using a lot of the same stuff we did on the Slam front. So that in general is a big one. More recently, I would say yes. I think we realized at some point very organically that digital covers could be cover merch for years, people would pitch me digital covers. Hey, why don't you put so and so on the cover? Sorry, our magazine can only have so many covers. They're all spoken for. We don't have a cover for you. Well, why don't you do a digital cover? Why?
Right.
Because it's not, we can't sell against it. We're not selling anything. You want us to just have a whole photo shoot, have a whole graphic package, put a bunch of time into content, and we're not going to make any money off it. And all it does is give a little bit of brand heat. And frankly, Slam, one of the cool things about like operating a 30+ year brand is every little thing that happens every day doesn't really shake the brand in any direction. You can, over time, you can lose your heat for sure, and you can do a bunch of stuff to increase the heat. But every hour, you're not, living and dying with what gets posted. So I didn't see the point of the digital cover thing. But then I think it was, I won't say the school because I don't know if they would want to get shouted out for it or not. But one school really wanted to be on the cover. And they were like, why don't you guys just do it digitally? And we were like, same thing, digital cover. What's the point? And it was like, well, we could do cover merch because we have the college licenses. So it could be merchandise, so we can make money on that. Well, what's the cover? Oh, well, it's a college cover. Let's call it Slam U. And let's just change the top. And I said, let's just make the U a different color. So it's Slam U. And that could be a cover series. And wait, we could make money against that because it can be cover merchandise. And not only that, but we're also in the team apparel business on the college front. So we can use the covers to also bring in audience and sell against all the rest of our team apparel. And we did it once or twice and it was good. And then, all right, let's go. And then we did like 8 the first season. I think we did 14 this past season. We'll probably do a similar number the coming season. And then same thing with W Slam through our WNBA license. Obviously, every Slam cover has its own cover apparel universe. And then more recently, Slam Icons, which is our throwback covers that become cover merch and the cover story. And we even do Slam High School covers now, although we don't do a lot of Slam High School merch, but we have digital covers there too. And those we're doing just because we do the photo shoots already. So we have the assets, so we can turn them into digital covers pretty easily. But yeah, that was a big unlock for us. When you look at just how many drops and cover moments we have, you have to be careful not to be dilutive, and we keep an eye on that. But we realized we can turn up the dial a lot in terms of output without harming the brand at all, actually helping the brand. So yeah, now you've got the magazine in every one of its covers. You've got Slam U, you've got W Slam, you've got Slam Icons, you've got Slam High School. You've got this whole world. And I still think that when someone's scrolling on social media, which is a very tough place to compete, and there's so much going on there, when something is formatted like a magazine cover, it makes you stop for whatever reason. It's still this thing people know of a magazine as an aspirational, difficult to reach media real estate. Because anyone can post a photo of themselves on social media. But if you're on the cover of a magazine, you need to be stamped in some way. So, and I think that's kind of embedded in everybody's brain, which is why that cover draws a lot of audience still. So yeah, we built a business around that on the apparel front, and it's been a huge unlock for us.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think if you go back to the beginning of our days with Slam and before that, revenue was what? It was brand partnerships, advertising dollars. There wasn't anything really alongside get views, sell mags, and find brands that want to mess with Slam. Now there's this, direct to consumer offering that never used to exist. I think, I don't know if everybody finds this interesting. It's been one of the best educations for me, growing up as a business person at JDS and figuring out how all these businesses make money. Licensing is a disgusting web of getting people to trust you, scaling things up, politics. How did that all go? Because saying we're popular, we should sell stuff isn't as easy as it sounds. And that was eye-opening for me.
This should start from the beginning. Like, the reason that we're able to build that business is because of what Dennis and his team did in the 90s and 2000s, where they created this trusted brand that meant a lot to a lot of people. And then over time started working closely with the NBA and the WNBA, so that these big entities, there were relationships in place between Slam and the league for 30 something years now, right? Yeah. We're not someone who's just showing up on the front door saying, hey, we want to do business with you guys. They know who we are. So if you go back to the early cover tee days, initially our cover tees were the only ones that we had the rights to do were via Mitchell & Ness, and they were the older cover tees. So Mitchell & Ness produced them. We just got a royalty on it. We didn't have a proper license in those days. When we started making our own cover tees with the newer covers, it was via a sub-license with an existing licensee. Great. They had the license, and they basically routed everything for us, got everything approved for us. We had to work through a different entity. Then we acqui-hire in 1999. They bring over 75-ish college licenses. They're a licensed apparel company specifically focused on college at the time. That unlocked a lot of this for us. Yeah. They had the infrastructure, the know-how, a lot of the relationships. They were in the licensed apparel game, and we owe a lot of this growth that we're talking about here to that group. Yeah. So that's a few years ago, let's call it. And then more recently, we're able to take their infrastructure, their facility in Indianapolis, which is now our facility and our infrastructure, and go to the league and more recently apply for a proper license. And there's rules and guidelines within which we can have to navigate. But I agree with you. Like, I've learned a ton being on every side of it. Cool in a lot of ways. It diversifies us. It allows us to push some chips in over here, push some chips over here. Wait, no, let's invest more on this side. Wait, no, let's do, we're constantly, that's the difficulty of it. Yeah. But it's exciting to have that kind of optionality. And more importantly, in my opinion, more excitedly, they work so closely together.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. Like, right, there's a theme here we're talking through that's kind of like digital, IRL, whatever, right? Physical. Is that manifesting in the way that people actually buy physical items with Slam? And what I mean by that is, like, now we have events, right? And I see the business reports, right? Like, direct to consumer. Most of the activity has happened through our e-commerce operations. And the 1999 team that's come on board crushes that. But also I see this e-commerce item just growing, slowly growing, and now complementing a direct-to-consumer business. Do you think that there's something, like, not to go too deep on it, but there's something there too, and maybe driving strategy of, well, people want to buy our stuff in real places, at cool places, at experiences, and is that part of the strategy in growing e-commerce?
Well, yeah. I think what you're explaining there is a big part of our more recent growth and growth plans is the wholesale business. Yeah, which is, we have a bunch of accounts. The 99 guys predating Slam had a college basketball apparel business that did have a small wholesale component where they had their product in a bunch of stores. More recently, though, that's been scaled a lot, and it's been scaled alongside the NBA and WNBA licensed product that we have in a lot of stores. I mean, we're in, Fanatics locations all over the country. Between all of our product, we touch Dick's, Lids, Shields, Rally House, NBA store, tons of in-arena, in-venue stores. So we've built this wholesale business, and I think we're really just scratching the surface there. I think there are a lot of people, they see Slam, they know Slam, they don't necessarily know that we make product or apparel. And even though we reach a lot of people online, obviously millions, but even still, that's only everything is so convoluted on social media and there's so much there that I do think there's a whole different audience of people who are going to see our stuff, learn that we are in the apparel game in person and be like, oh yeah, I want that. That's my favorite player on this cover that I love, or that's my favorite team. Oh, Slam's making these. That's amazing. I still think we are at the early stages of the potential for that growth. We're also looking into going deeper into retail, just full stop. Still figuring that out, but I think there's a lot of potential with Slam having physical hubs where people can go and shop and consume our product and see the magazine and look at our variety of shirts and hoodies and shorts and all of that. Maybe consume content in some way or create content in some way also. I think that's super exciting. And then, yeah, there's still the e-commerce of it all. That this current version of it, like, it still feels early to me. I think we're starting to get to the limit of some of the things we could do from a product perspective that I don't want to go all in on. Like, you can only have so many covers, for example. I don't want to have 365 covers per year. You know what I'm saying? Every single day you wake up, new cover. I don't think that's a smart strategy. But from a product growth perspective, audience growth perspective, I really think it's just scratching the surface.
Yeah, totally. And that ties together, right, with like whether it's a Slam retail shop or that's showing up at a pop-up around the Slam Summer Classic or a Slam night.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you, about the Slam nights.
Yeah, Slam nights. How do you think about those? I think those are really interesting.
Yeah.
We're in, the early innings of that. I think I've been with you to a number of them, whether they were at the Barclays Center for a Nets game or at BYU for college games. What's really the strategy there? Is it to just get eyeballs on the brand, especially where we're relatively new, right? We're still relatively new in college. The WNBA is growing rapidly. We want to be present there, support the growth that's happening there. Or is it like, we need to be selling stuff here too? How do you think about it?
It sounds corny, but I do think that the latter part of that, we need to sell stuff, that's going to happen if the stuff is cool and it has a cool presence. To Slam Night, that was a very organic thing. We were talking to the Brooklyn Nets a few years ago. We were just like, let's do something cool together to celebrate Slam's 30th anniversary. And it was fun. And then what we realized was, wait a second, like, we can be a real value add to a team. Fact of the matter is there's this is a separate conversation, but there's a lot of games in the season. So the teams need to spice it up and do fun stuff for their fans. Even in college where there's not that many games, I still think there's some games where, teams want to spice it up. So through that and through the following couple of Slam nights, we then reached out to a few other teams. Let's do this with you. Let's do this with you. Now our process is we often work backwards off covers we have coming up, where it's like, look, if we have this cover coming up, we want to celebrate the cover. They're really excited by it. They're like, oh, our guy's on the cover of Slam. We want to make sure our whole audience knows. We will work directly with the team store to make sure there is a bunch of product in team retail.
Yeah, so it's great. Like, you heat up the arena with the team, and then you're also like, oh, hey, look, we just made some dough together.
Sometimes they put the ushers and the DJs and the MCs all in Slam merch. Sometimes players wear Slam merch in the tunnels. And we have league fits, obviously, so we can say, look, if you'll get the players in the Slam tees before the game, we will make sure it's amplified on league fits, which is basically the best place to amplify a tunnel photo.
Yeah.
So, it's, we're not asking for money from the teams, and we're also not giving them money to be a marketing partner of ours. We're trying to be additive, and we know that it's going to come back around for us. And it's really been this cool thing where we had one with the Valkyries a couple of weeks ago. I went out there for it, and the amount of merch that you saw was amazing. So many people. We had a great one last year, so I think a lot of people picked up Slam Valkyries merch last year and then wore it this year.
Nice.
So there was continuity. It was also it was present in all over the arena from a team retail perspective. So a lot of people bought it and just threw it right on. They were giving out magazines. There's all these different things. Teams have done poster giveaways, magazine giveaways, T-shirt giveaways. digital content on the Jumbotron, behind the scenes of the cover, all of these things that can be done. I think that when people are consuming the Slam brand physically, whether it's through product, paper product, apparel product, or event IRL moments, it's resonating on a deeper level.
Yeah. That's leading me to collectibles. Like the needing something in their hands. An awesome part of the business where we made a hire, right? Where Austin Kent is a really smart guy who's heading that up with Dave. It's interesting to me where the magazine was always, the cover was always the centerpiece of the business, whether that was shipping out mags or putting them on t-shirts. But like, we didn't really talk about the magazine like a collectible until relatively recently. I think there's an education component to this that's relevant for this podcast and anybody that's listening. Like, what are we actually doing?
Yeah.
And then also just like, what are you seeing in that vertical of the business?
I think people are just interested in collecting things these days. And I think that's an interesting, it's right on theme with a lot of the stuff you've talked about here, where people just want physical stuff in a world where everything is digital. And I think there was a time period, not to zoom out too far, but there was a time period there where everything being digital was cool and fun and new and exciting.
Yeah, NFTs.
And now everything being digital is scary and just less enjoyable.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, less enjoyable.
Yeah.
Exhausting. So people, you saw a big uptick in vinyl the past few years.
That's actually funny. The conversation I had
not
with
a coincidence.
This trusted friend of mine before this, he was like, dude, vinyl is a great example.
It's not a coincidence. Yeah. Totally. People aren't buying vinyl because they want to put it on they want to play on their record player at home. They want it because it's a cool thing to have around their apartment or their house. They can display it. It shows fandom, right? It shows interest. It shows taste.
Yeah.
And I think of the magazine in a lot of the same ways.
Yeah.
You display it. It shows fandom. It shows taste. It shows kind of who you are. Pulling that thread deeper, we created the metal editions of the magazine. Same idea. Just the gold medals are a limited version, so there's only 94 of them for every cover. Same idea though. Just like the magazine, people buy them to display them. Some people buy them to flip them. That's fine. We don't eat on an eBay sale of the magazine,
right?
But I think it's cool, and I think it's exciting, honestly. But it's only numbered out of 94. Then we have the orange medals, which is a similar idea, but more democratized, where 48 hours, anyone can buy it. And we will print as many as we sell over the course of 48 hours for the orange medals. We've recently brought back platinums, which is 24 platinum medals being randomly inserted into orders from the orange count. So if you order an orange, you might get a platinum instead, which is super rare and super exclusive. Austin has, as you can imagine, a really intense, fun formula to make sure that it's properly randomized and there's no back-end shadiness or anything like that. We take all that stuff super seriously. And then, back to what I was saying before about selling the magazine with top loaders and frames and all of these different ways, so that people hold on to them or display them, and maybe they increase in value over the years. I mean, then the other part of this is there's been a little bit of a boom. I don't know if you know all about this in the sort of like old magazine space, where people are buying and selling way old magazines. And more recently, there's the graded magazine element of it all. And we have relationships with PSA and CGC. And people are, so you can buy a graded magazine directly from us or online. We'll also have a booth at, Fanatics Fest. And we'll probably be in a few more card shows in the future where people can buy graded magazines from us. But the secondary market for graded magazines has also been really interesting to watch grow the past, year or so. It's still not a huge market, but it's growing month over month over month over month, nonstop. Austin gives us these reports that we're really monitoring the secondary market of magazine sales. I think it's just good data for us to know and keep an eye on. And so we're all over just paying attention to all of that stuff.
For me, I see like rising tide lifts all ships here, right?
Yeah.
Like if Sports Illustrated starts leaning into the magazine as a collectible, if they go deep in their archives and make those things available, like that's good for us too, because we're doing it the most, like I guess you'd say, intently compared to people that have been in the print media business. Do you talk to these people? Is this like, or are we the only ones that are like really making a conscious effort here?
I think we're the only ones who are really making a conscious effort. I think Time Magazine is doing a decent job, to use a
Time's doing
non-sports example of this stuff. I think some of our sports competitors are dropping the ball on this specific thing, if we're being honest. I just think there's a little more opportunity, and I'm sure for all sorts of reasons that I don't understand or don't have visibility into, they're not able to move the way we move. I don't fully understand it, but no, I don't talk to magazines that could be doing stuff like this. I would like to, so maybe I'll make that happen later today or in the near future.
I mean, to me,
but I think that they must be they're handicapped by all sorts of reasons.
Totally. Yeah, it's not an easy thing, right? We've been very deliberate, and you have to go, crawl, walk, run, test stuff, and we're seeing good results. Now we're going.
It's tangible effort. It's intentional. It could be some resources.
You have to learn a new community. But to me, I'm a casual collector. I love sports, right? So, I hold on to some stuff. Trading cards versus magazines, I think, which one do I gravitate towards naturally? I think a magazine's way cooler. They print, I think trading cards are cool too, but they print trading cards just like insane volume. And the hunt for something valuable or cool is like just microscopic, right? You need to be almost a professional to get good stuff. Whereas magazines are, if you're paying attention now, there's an opportunity there as a collector, I think.
If you're bullish on the future of magazine collectability, it's an amazing time to be in it. Because not a lot of people are, frankly. Trading cards is just a bigger, more saturated space. Doesn't mean there's not incredible opportunity. As far as I know, that space is really growing and very exciting also. But there's not millions of people collecting old magazines. It also goes to a thing we've talked about a little bit here, how difficult it is to build a digital-only brand. So I think whether you're talking about a Sports Illustrated or any other big kind of sports magazine of the past whatever years, no matter what happens digitally or what has happened digitally so far, I still think they really do resonate. They're amazing brands.
You kind of just put where I was going next is kind of like, where is Slam going, right? Like there's so many things that the business updates just keep growing and growing, right? We're doing so many things that are new. And the question is kind of like, what's next, or what's the focus on? This thing just popped up in my head. Is like, should we be looking at other magazines and saying, this is a pretty cool brand that's being neglected? Should we try and resurrect it? And, is that the growth, or like what, like, where are you evaluating, and where do you think you want to drive the ship next?
I mean, my brain's been in that direction a few times. You poke around and you'd see there's a lot of bodies buried in some of these. I mean, you look at our transition wasn't super easy.
No.
We acqui-hired 19.9, and we got out of that, and we have an amazing slam goods department right now, and we're really humming. But it took a little bit of time for sure. In terms of the growth of it all, I think there's so much there, digitally and socially. Again, like, I don't love the brand building element of all of that, but that is where the audience is. And that's where the audience largely is. So we're still there. We're still investing there. We're still creating amazing content every day. Amazing social team, great video constantly. Slam High School, Slam Kicks, W Slam, League Fits, even Slam Rewinds. Like, these are all amazing channels every day. So there's that piece of it that continues to grow, continues to bubble, continues to mean something to people. Our products, our apparel, are continuing to grow. More recently, from new distribution unlocks, our wholesale business is really taken off this year. Super exciting. A lot of opportunity there. And then on the e-commerce side, we're just figuring out how to be more efficient, how to give the customer a better experience, better UI, better customer service, all of these elements on the back end, using AI more on the back end to just move faster and more efficiently. And then, we talked a little bit about what could be in terms of retail and all of that. The Slam nights present this exciting way to scale the brand, IRL, way more in college. I think that we're really just scratching the surface of how much the brand can be this relevant player in college hoops just in general. And we talk about so much of what we talked about here. The reason it works is because of fans. Because they're like, I want to put my favorite team on my shirt, my favorite player on my shirt, or on my wall, or in a frame, or I want to, consume their content, all of that stuff. Favorite team, favorite player. And you think about the NBA is like 30 fan bases, right? And at any given time, maybe there's 5, maybe 8 that are like hot market-ish. That's like a little hot too, like really hot market at any times, 1 or 2 across the league. WNBA, about half of that in terms of total teams, few hot markets. I think the WNBA fan bases are actually, there's maybe even a higher ratio of hot markets because that's like an excited group of fans for sure. That league is growing. The product is getting better. I actually think there's a lot of hot markets across the WNBA right now. But still, that's only, a dozen or so teams. College basketball has how many like iconic programs? 50, 60, 70?
Dude, and to your point too, like my dad went to Rutgers. I love Rutgers.
Yeah.
We cannot get out of our own way. We haven't had a good relevant sports team in any of the sports that I care about. Go to a Rutgers sporting event though. Even football, the stats are embarrassing of how Rutgers football has been since we joined the Big Ten. Basketball team has had up and down, whatever. It's not, as you're mentioning, a hot market, but go to a game.
No, it's forever. That's my point. It's forever.
Forever.
Yeah. And you're a Rutgers fan. Why?
My dad went there. I'm a Jersey person.
Okay.
I went there for grad school.
That's my point though.
Yeah.
So your dad will be a fan of Rutgers forever.
Yeah.
Nothing will undo that. Probably same for you because you got in it through him. You're a Rutgers fan forever. NBA fans, non-Knicks, Lakers, Celtics department can be a little more fleeting.
I mean, the Knicks challenged me over the years. I almost left a couple times.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's nothing like college basketball fandom. It's more intense, and it's. You said it well. Like, yes, there can be the team that's number 1 in the country at any given time will have the hottest market for sure, and we'll be there. We'll be doing something with them. But there's every school during the season is excited. You're into it. It's a different cultural thing. So you have that across men's and women's college basketball. That's a lot of opportunity for us, whether we're talking about slam nights, Slam U covers, print covers, team collections, which we're going to go deeper into this year. All, pop-ups, all sorts of just evolution in terms of how we work with these schools. There's a lot there.
Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't cover that's exciting you that you want to hit on?
We're doing a lot of stuff. We have the Slam Summer Classic coming up. That's really exciting. What is it? What's the date? July 6th. So just even as we sit here, we're having conversations about what the future of Slam looks like from a retail perspective. We are planning the Slam Summer Classic in August. We're popping up at Fanatics Fest in a couple of weeks. 1 week after that, we're popping up at WNBA Live, which is the fan fest at WNBA All-Star in Chicago. We have a bunch of brand partnership stuff happening. There's some really exciting stuff going on there, I should say, across the sneaker stuff. We're planning Kicks Magazine. We have some really cool stuff coming with the biggest sneaker company in the world for this fall.
Nice.
I'm not sure what I can or can't say, so I'm going to say very little, but we're doing some really cool sneaker collabs that we're lining up. The cover of Kicks is going to be amazing, multiple covers, and we're planning how we're activating across college hoops in the fall. That's a lot of stuff. Everything I just said, I probably worked on some way, shape, or form already today, or, and a bunch of people here also did. So we're doing a lot, and it's exciting. And I say all of that to say I probably forgot something because there's that much going on, but I'm excited by all of it. I think it's a cool time to be kind of working at Slam or, even, investing in Slam from your perspective or just
Definitely
being
is.
involved?
The NBA feels hot right now. The Knicks just went on a run. That's a perfect market for the NBA to hit. That aside, what is the NBA doing well? And what's one thing it needs to reflect on?
I think the NBA is doing all things digital and social media well and has been for a while now. I don't think I'm first to make that point.
Yeah.
But it's the conversation, and it's 365, which I think is I think it's a good thing. Granted, I'm in the media, but I think it's a good thing. Knicks, amazing, straight into an insane free agency. The NBA has the best free agency. Um, it's like not too many people change where it's impossible to follow, but enough people change where you're so curious who's going to go where. And then as we're sitting here, there's the LeBron of it all, which is coming up. So, and that's going to go right into Summer League. There's like a quick down period in maybe August, and then September they check back in, and the news cycle is just going to be going 24/7 from there. So that's coming. I'm excited to see how the new lottery rules change things. I actually think that was smart. Cool that you could be one of the worst teams in the league, but you don't want to be the worst team in the league. So you're going to actually be
Totally.
The owner is going to be telling the coach, get out there and, get this win.
Right.
We need a better chance in the lottery.
Right.
Those games are actually going to be kind of fun. That'll be in like March, April. So
yeah, that's genius.
There's some of that.
Yeah.
And especially us, we are activating against hot markets and hot time periods. And so you don't want any downtime. But I'm bullish on the NBA. I'm bullish on basketball. I think there's been some of that stuff is overblown, to be honest with you. And it was interesting because I was taking that side of being bullish on basketball and bullish on the NBA. Maybe when it was a little less fashionable, a bunch of months back, and then with the Knicks thing happening, the Knicks are the most successful championship team in history in terms of merch sales, right?
Yeah.
Ours is a small little, not super small, but a smaller version of that. Right. But for Fanatics, it's more interesting because that means that the Knicks beat every football champion ever, every hockey champion ever, every baseball champion ever. So what does that say about level of engagement, right? Super high. Where that goes, we'll see. But that was a great win, the league as a whole and the culture as a whole. So I think there's a lot to build on.
Quick one. You hit it on a little bit. Predict where LeBron James goes.
I thought Golden State was the lock, but we've been here for what, 2 hours? It might be set by now. It seems like it's Cleveland. I was rooting for Golden State just because I want LeBron and Steph playing for. They probably don't go 82, but 60 games with those guys on the court together is pretty great. I wouldn't mind like a Philly or something off the wall. I think Cleveland and Miami are both. I don't know. They just happened already.
Yeah.
So from like a media outsider perspective, less jazzed on those two, but I'll say, I gotta say, I mean, you asked me to predict it, so I'm gonna say Cleveland. Just because it seems like that's what storybook ending, the whole thing. But
I hope we have him back in the East.
I don't mind seeing a new team.
Yeah, it'd be good to have him back in the East. Last one. If you're not watching the WNBA, why should you be watching the WNBA?
Storylines are great. The basketball's great. You don't have to, but it's helpful if you have on-ramps, as in watch her play a full game of this. Obviously, everyone knows Caitlin. I think that's a great one. I think Paige Beckers is incredible.
Paige's great.
My favorite player in the league right now is Olivia Miles.
Okay.
You should just watch the mixtapes, watch the highlights. Absolutely insane point guard, like early Chris Paul meets Steve Nash stuff. Marina Mabry on Toronto.
Shout out to Jersey Shore, Manasquan.
Yeah. is on fire right now. So that's kind of how I have found on ramps with
They
it.
have
I think
stars,
they
yeah.
have stars. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a fun way to get in if you don't want to just put it on. I'd recommend just putting it on and you'd be surprised at the level of, I mean, I don't think you should be surprised, but maybe people would be surprised at the level of talent. And then like the drama,
Yeah.
storylines, and the like, actually she hates her, or, they used to play together, but then now they're not teammates anymore, and now they're teammates. They used to be enemies, or they're enemies, or you got to see this clip of this with, there's like a lot of that stuff. In the NBA also, I think the NBA were used to following it, and Kevin Durant and James Harden and Russell Westbrook were super tight in OKC, and then they become less tight, and then they become tight again, and you're used to following it, the rhythms of it. And I don't think it's that hard to learn the rhythms of the WNBA like that. And I think once you're involved in it, it can be a lot of fun to follow.
Yeah, I think like that gets to the thesis, right, of give them the media coverage they deserve.
Yeah.
And Slam has been playing its role in that growth. But give it the media coverage it deserves, and then, the lore, the story kind of just forms itself. And it's been great. The investment keeps going up, the coverage keeps going up, and now it's easier to uncover the stories and the stars.
Yeah, we're publishing a WNBA kids book.
Nice.
Which we didn't even really talk about kids and youth and all of that, but we have youth product. And then we made a NBA book for kids, a Knicks book for kids, WNBA book for kids that'll be out in a month or so. And yeah, it's the same idea where it's like, let's be an on-ramp for kids that want to get into the WNBA. Let's help parents teach their kids about what it is, what it has been, what it's going to be, who to watch, how to watch, where to watch, all that stuff. I think that's a big part of Slam's future. And yeah, we're excited to watch the W grow.
Love it. All right, man. It's been great. I could ask you questions all day. I think we're over time. Thank you so much.
Of course, bro.
Appreciate it.